So let's, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's hearing of the Board of L&I Review. Today's date is October 10th, 2023. My name is Beverly Penn. I am serving as acting chairperson today. Our esteemed chairman, Mr. Woodson, is not available. So everybody's been muted, and we do that to avoid any unnecessary background noise, which can oftentimes interfere with the cases that are being presented and our ability to hear all of the testimony. So please, if your device is not muted now, please do so, and you'll still be able to hear all of the proceedings. Secondly, everything is being recorded both by the reporter and by Zoom. So when your matter comes up, we need you to speak clearly and slowly so that the reporter can get all of the necessary information, your name, address, whatever is being asked of you, as well as your testimony. We ask that you not speak over one another, i.e. don't speak over the attorney while the attorney is attempting to ask a question of a witness. Don't interrupt when a witness is testifying, even if you believe.
Where do my camera hook up to? Can you hear me, Bill?
Miss, you're going to have to mute your device, please. Miss Lee? Okay. That you not interrupt or talk over anybody who is testifying or asking questions during the presentation of that case. We'll be sure to make sure you have an opportunity to speak to the board and address any issues that are being raised in that hearing. Again, this is a pretty big list today. Your case, depending upon where it is on the list, may come further, much later in the afternoon. So we're going to ask everybody for patience, pay attention if you hear your name called so that you can hear your name called. And also, this is a formal hearing before this board, just as it would be if you were in person and in a courtroom. That means that you need to be dressed appropriately. Gentlemen are not to wear hats. No one is to be in a state of undress or semi-undress, which we have seen before this board. And we would prefer that you be wide awake when your name is called, alert and ready to testify before the hearing. Let's see, where are we going to go? So the first thing that's going to happen now is that I am going to ask the board to introduce itself to everyone. And following that, we will ask the City of Philadelphia Law Department to let us know if there are any continuances, matters that have been determined to be moot or moot complied, and we will get that information on the record. Please pay close attention to the city attorney to whether or not your matter has been deemed moot or moot complied. I will tell you now that both of those categories mean that there will be no hearing today on your matter. But if you do not fully understand what that term means, you should call board's administration at the number that's at the bottom of your appeal paperwork. So let us introduce the board. Again, my name is Beverly Penn. I'm serving as acting chairperson today.
I'm Steve Pettit, board member.
Roger S. Tennant, senior board member.
Penn Washington, board member. Cortez Patton, board member.
Terry, board counsel.
Richard Wade, board administrator.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So who is presenting matters for the city today?
Good afternoon, board members. This is Michael Rouleau, R-U-L-L-O, on behalf of the city, and I will be handling the preliminary list of moots.
Thank you, Mr. Rouleau. Please go ahead.
If you could just give me 1 second, I'm having a technical issue at the moment.
Of course.
Okay, beginning with number 1, appeal ending 003723 concerning 3419 North 3rd Street. The appellant is a Mixa Rodriguez. That can be marked moot complied. I would note that there is a Spanish translator listed there. So I'm not sure if the appellant is present, but we may need to communicate that via the translator.
Okay. Is Ms. Mixa Rodriguez present at the hearing now?
She is.
She is present?
Yes. We can reread that at 1:30 when the interpreter arrives.
Okay, for the time being, we will note that matter number 1 is moot complied.
Understood. Moving to number 7, appeal ending 003 055 2566 Coral Street, and Angela Romero Monsalve. There are 2 cases, number 7 and number 8 on the list. Number 7 can be marked moot.
Okay, number 7, Angela Ramiro Monsalve, 2566 Coral Street is moot.
Moving to number 9, appeal ending 004 532 837 Stanwood Street. The appellant is a Jennifer Toffee. That can be marked.
Excuse me. Cerulo, what was your listing for number 8? I know
So
you did say number 7 was moot.
yes, so I
number 8.
so what I intended to clarify there is that only number 7 is being marked moot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, returning to number 9, appeal ending 004 532 837 Stanwood Street, a Jennifer Toffee. That can be marked moot complied.
Noted.
Moving to number 11, appeal ending 004 502 231 Garrett Street. The appellant is a Glenn Davis. That can be marked moot.
So noted, moot.
I'm going to read numbers 12 and 13 together. They're appeal ending 004 563 and 004 564. Both concern 5300 Harbison Avenue with an appellant of New Cortland Properties. Both of those can be marked moot complied.
So noted, moot complied.
Moving to number 15, appeal ending 004 619 7326 Brentwood Road. The appellant is a Valerie Scott. That can be marked moot.
So noted as moot.
Moving to number 16, appeal ending 004 483 5945 North Lawrence Street. The appellant is a Lucia Disla. That can be marked moot complied.
So noted as moot complied.
Moving to number 17, 1118 South 48th Street, Gebrakidian Saiful Assassi. That can be marked.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rulo, for interrupting. Will you spell the name for the reporter, please?
Yes. First name is GEBREKIDAN, and the last name is SEIFESSILASSIE, and that can be marked moot.
So noted as moot. Thank you, Mr. Rulo.
Moving to number 19, appeal ending 004 491 3022 North Marshall Street. Appellant is a Chantel French. That can be marked moot complied.
So noted as moot complied.
Moving to number 20, appeal ending 004 182, property address of 1921 Green Street, a Point Builders Design Concepts LLC. I believe that has been marked continued already, but I just wanted to confirm that.
We have it marked as listed in error, not as continued.
Okay.
Although we did see a request from Ms. Yashitomi. I'm sorry, I'm saying that incorrectly. Her last name is KLYASHTOMY Esquire. We did see she did send a request in for a continuance. So is it listed in error, or did you speak with her about a continuance?
I believe it is attorney Christopher Johnson who is handling that and can clarify.
All right.
Ms. Clash Torney had requested that be continued. She was unavailable for the hearing today, as well as one other on the list. If you'd like me to recite that, I can now. But the city had no objection, and I'm prepared to represent that we had agreed to have that matter rescheduled.
Okay, so then we will mark matter number 20 as continued.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher.
Moving to number 21.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Did you need a second?
No, I apologize for interrupting. I was apologizing to Mr. Johnson for using his first name instead of his surname. Please continue, Mr. Rulo.
Yes, number 21, appeal ending 004508 concerning 1421 South 58th Street. A Maya Love is the appellant. That can be marked moot.
So noted as moot.
Moving to number 23, appeal ending 003354 220 Crams Avenue. Appellant is a Matthew Woodruff. That can be marked moot.
So noted as moot.
Moving to number 24, appeal ending 004506 concerning 7718 Whitaker Avenue. A appellant is a Shafiq Tariq. That can be marked moot.
So noted as moot.
Moving to number 25, appeal ending 004519 concerning 1513 Rosalind Street. The appellant is a Robert Wiggins. That can be marked moot complied.
So noted as moot complied.
Moving to number 31, appeal ending 004857 2763 North Reese Street. The appellant is a Hazim Abdo. That can be marked moot.
So noted as moot.
I'm going to address numbers 33, 34, and 35 at the same time. Those concern appeals ending 4537, 4539, and 4540. Property address of 6201 Tacony Street for each, and the appellant for each is an Andrew Cronfield. Those three cases can be marked moot complied.
So noted as moot complied.
Moving to number 36, appeal ending 004454 concerning 6552 to 60 Haverford Avenue. The appellant is a Haverford Holdings LLC. As Mr. Johnson had just indicated, Ms. Klishtorny is not available, and the city had not opposed a continuance. So just wanted to confirm that the board, as with, I believe it was number 20, will be continuing number 36.
Yes, we'll mark that matter as continued.
That does it for the preliminary list. I believe that some of the other city attorneys either have agreements or other matters to enter into the record. I will default to them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rulo. Let's see, who do I see? Who do I see? Who do I see? So, Ms. Reinhardt. Ms. Reinhardt, are you prepared to put a matter on the record at this time?
Sure, I can. I understand that there was a continuance request for number 8, ending 0412. This is for 2566 Coral Street. I was not sure if there was anything decided on that continuance from the appellant.
Well, I don't believe that Ms. Monsalve is present. The request was that we saw was that she was going out of country for medical issues or a medical reason. We don't know specifically why. Does the city have an objection to continuing this matter at this time?
No objection.
Then we will mark number 8 as moot. Would you read the case into the record, please?
Sure. This is for appeal number HA 2023-000412, address 2566 Coral Street, owner Angela Romero Monsalve. And it sounds like there's a continuance granted.
Thank you. We'll mark that matter as continued.
Thank you. I had just one other matter then. It was for 2401 South Broad Street. This is number 3 on the list. This was appeal number HA 2022-004363. Appeal by David Kirsch Esquire and Michelle Hutka. I understand that there was, I'm sorry.
There seems to be a little feedback, but I think you can go forward and we can hear you well enough.
Okay, thank you. I understand that there was correspondence with board administration that the appellant indicated that they would give permission to the board to continue in their absence today. I did respond in order to recommend, if they are traveling for a funeral, that they make a continuance request, and have not heard anything back. But my understanding is that they are not present, and we would not have anyone in order to put anything on the record on their behalf.
That's correct. And we did discuss this earlier and wanted to know what your position was with regard to their request. So are you indicating to us that you would not object to a continuance of this matter at this time?
I would not, because there was communication early on.
Okay. Then we will mark matter number 3, HA 2022-004363, 2401 South Broad Street, David Krish and Michelle Hatuka, that's HATOOKA, as continued.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reinhardt. Anything else?
Nothing further at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any other city attorney that would like to put anything on the record right now at this moment?
Will Fernandez for the City of Philadelphia. I have a single matter that has been resolved by agreement. It's number 6 on the list, appeal number ending in 4469. Subject address is 5245 to 47 Germantown Avenue. The appellant, Stan Smith, I believe, is present, as is his counsel, Steve Masters. The city has reached an agreement to dispose of this appeal as city affirmed with a 45-day stay of enforcement. All violations but one have been resolved, and that agreement will take care of the entirety of the appeal.
Okay. Mr. Masters? I did see Mr. Masters earlier. Mr. Masters, are you here?
Yes. Sorry about that. I was muted. We
That's
agreed
all
to
right.
those terms by Mr. Fernandez.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll poll the board and put the agreement on the record. In the matter of case number 6, HA 2022-004469, 5245-47 Germantown Avenue, primary appellant Stan Smith. This matter has been resolved by agreement. City affirmed 45-day stay of enforcement.
City affirm with a 45-day of enforcement.
City affirm with a 45-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed with a 45-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed with a 45-day stay of enforcement.
Thank you. Any
Thank you,
other
members of the board.
preliminary matters or agreements that we need to know about ahead of time? Mr. Bagelman, you have your hand raised.
Yes. Good afternoon. I have a few agreements to read into the record. The first is number 4 on the list, appeal HA-2022-004467 concerning 2903 Diamond Street. There's an agreement that was sent to the board where we agreed to a city affirm with a reduced fine of $250.
Is Ms. Washington in the hearing room today?
I do not believe so, no.
But you do, I think I did see that you had forwarded the written agreement.
Yes, forwarded in, she was copied on the email.
Thank you. So in that case, we will read that matter into the record, and the board will, and poll the board. HA 2022-004467, 2903 Diamond Street. Appellant is Karen Washington. There is an agreement. City affirm with a $250 fine.
Madam Chair, I'm going to recuse myself from the vote on this agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. Mr. Pettit? You're muted.
All right, city affirmed with a $250 fine.
City affirmed with a $250 fine.
City affirmed with a $250 fine.
Thank you.
I have two more agreements to read into the record. The next one is appeal number 5 on the list, appeal number HA-2022-004191 concerning 730 Kenilworth Avenue. The appellant is an Andrian Wilson, and we have agreed to have the violation marked city affirm, but with a 120-day stay of enforcement. And that I don't think the appellant is here today, but that agreement was emailed to the board with her copied.
Okay. Let's just call and see. Is Ms. Andrian Wilson present in the hearing room? No, she is not. But we did receive the written agreement, so we will go forward and poll the board on number 5. There is an agreement between the parties. The vote will be city affirm, 45-day stay of enforcement.
I'm sorry, it was a 120-day stay of
Oh, I
enforcement.
beg your pardon, 120-day stay of enforcement.
Thank you.
City affirmed with a 120-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed per the agreement with a 120-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed per the agreement with a 120-day stay of enforcement.
City affirmed per agreement with 120-day stay of enforcement.
Mr. Begelman, any other agreements you want to read into the record?
Yes, I have one more. It is appeal number 10 on the list. Appeal number HA-2022-004562 concerning 3208 Turner Street. The appellant is Apple Core Inc. I do not see the individual who's the owner of Apple Core Inc. here, but we have agreed to a city affirm with a reduced fine of the violation of $0.
Is anybody here representing Apple Core Inc.? And was the agreement forwarded to board's administration?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. On matter number 10, there is an agreement. We will go forward and poll the board. City affirm with a reduced fine of $0.
City affirmed with reduced fine of $0.
City affirmed with a reduced fine of $0.
City affirmed with a reduced fine of $0.
City affirmed with a reduced fine of $0.
Thank you. I see Mr. Bevelman has left the room, so I think that is the end of that. Mr. Johnson, you have your hand up.
I do, and I apologize. I'm having a little technical troubles today, but there are two matters that I wanted to address as preliminary matters. On number 36 on the list for Haverford Holdings LLC, the attorney on that case is also Ms. Clash Torney, and they had requested that that be continued. Was that continuance granted?
Yes, we did. We did.
Okay, thank you. And I have a preliminary issue on number 26 regarding the appeal of 3150 Richmond Street of United Inspection Agency. The city's witness is not available today due to a medical appointment, but he is available. It's Inspector Bob Parisi. He is available on Thursday. On Thursday, there's a related matter that is also scheduled on the same property for the inspector of United Inspection Agency. Would it be possible that the board would reschedule this matter for Thursday at 1:15 p.m.?
Okay, let me address first with Mr. Wade that this matter is on the list as listed in error.
Correct.
Okay.
So I don't see why that would be problematic. Mr. Wade, would we be able to move this matter to Thursday's list?
It's already on Thursday's list.
Oh, is it? Okay. So
Yeah, so that's why it was marked listed in area. That as well as the other case that was listed in error, they should both be moved. We're already moved to Thursday's list.
All
Okay,
right,
thank
so
you.
there's no problem there.
Madam Chair, for our records, are we listing this in error or continue, just for the record?
Well, we're really not, we're just going to leave it on this list as listed in error, as it's already been moved to October 12th.
Thank
The
you.
reason it's listed in error is for that very reason, that it was already on 12.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other preliminary matters from the city?
Good afternoon, members of the board. Jeffrey Cohen for the City of Philadelphia. This concerns number 14, HA 2022-004420 for 4200 Chester Avenue. The city would just like to confirm that that appeal was withdrawn by the appellant. And afterwards, I'd like to invite anyone who is here for that appeal into a breakout.
Before we do that, Mr. Masters, are you on now? Okay. Mr. Cohen, first of all, I'd like to let both you and Mr. Masters know that because this is a pretty significant matter, we did discuss the case a bit at executive session before we came into the main hearing room. One of the issues is obviously whether or not UV, I believe it's UVC Inc., the property owner who filed the withdrawal, is in fact the appellant, because on the hearing list, the appellant is listed as David Joseph. So there's clearly an issue of standing that is brought now, whether or not Mr. Joseph actually has standing to bring this matter, to whether UVC can actually withdraw an appeal that it did not file. And then the other issue is the rationale for the request for a continuance. We did have some questions amongst ourselves about that. And because it's a long matter, we thought it would be best to have this matter heard towards the end of the list, because it's a large, I believe Mr. Cohen probably has a number of witnesses that he would be calling because of the significance of the matter. So,
well, as a preliminary matter, if the matter of standing were resolved, then wouldn't that potentially dispose of the matter?
Absolutely. And what I was going to say is that what we would like to do is, if there are no other preliminary matters from any other city attorneys, we'd like to move this matter up to the beginning of the list now to have these preliminary matters addressed. The issue of standing, whether or not UVC can withdraw an appeal it did not file. I think, Mr. Cohen, that would be your question to address, and then also the basis of the continuance. If neither of you have any objection to that process.
Well, there's a preliminary issue, Ms. Penn, which is that I withdrew my appearance and Mr. McCreesh entered his appearance in this case. It relates to the issues that you are discussing now. When I was approached by Mr. Joseph, I was under the impression that he was the property owner or had a colorable interest in being able to bring the appeal that he brought pro se. I discovered only very recently that he is in fact has no ownership interest in the property or any of the businesses. He is a tenant who is hired to operate the bars, but has no ownership. And the individual who does have an ownership interest is someone that I'm not able to represent because I have conflicts of interest with that person. So when I discovered that, I was able to confer with the person who was my client, who I thought had ownership interest, and we were able to identify Mr. McCreesh, and who agreed to step in and represent, who is a longtime attorney for Mr. Gillespie. And Mr. McCreesh then filed a withdrawal. Mr. Joseph, who was my client, would only have any ability to file appeals or prosecute appeals to the extent that the actual owners in interest authorize him to do so. I can't speak to what was communicated to him prior, to my discovery of the situation, but it's very clear to me that the owners of this property and the operators of this location do not authorize the appeal to go forward, and in fact instructed their attorney to file withdrawal. So Mr. McCreesh, in his communication to the board earlier today, I believe, indicated that he wasn't planning to appear here today, and I don't believe that he is in appearance. But I am no longer associated with this matter, and I believe that the withdrawal is sound and legally valid. The only party that really can move forward or withdraw the appeal is Mr. McCreesh's client, and in Mr. Joseph, when he brought the appeal, if he in fact had the authorization of Mr. McCreesh's client, then I believe that would be that could be a proper way for a tenant to appeal a matter. But he no longer has that authorization, and the intent of the owner is clear to withdraw the appeal and to allow the special assembly occupancy license to be revoked.
And the city also shares Mr. Masters' understanding in large part.
I'm sorry, Mr. Cohen, would you start again?
Oh, I'm sorry. The city shares Mr. Masters' understanding in large part. When the appeal was filed, it was filed by Mr. Joseph. But at that time, the license, the Special Assembly Occupancy License, was held by UVC Inc. So it happens very often that an employee or an agent of a corporate entity will file an appeal, will neglect to put the entity as the appellant and will put their own name as the appellant, but really the appeal belongs to that corporate entity or that license holder. And it has always been the case in this case that the license at issue was issued to UVC Inc., not to Mr. Joseph as an individual.
And are you of the opinion, Mr. Cohen, based on what Mr. Masters has told us, that UVC is satisfied with the city's position and is willing to approve the cease of the property?
Well, I won't speak for UVC Inc. Obviously, ethically, I can't. But the cease or a cease is not necessarily the next option at this point. All that we are talking about here is the revocation of a special assembly license, which means they can't hold special assemblies. I believe that is UVC's understanding, and hopefully going forward, they will operate within the bounds of the law without holding any special assemblies at that location.
Okay. If you would give us a moment, the board did agree in executive session that once you gentlemen presented your positions, we're going to take a few minutes to discuss what you've told us, and then we will come back and render a decision. So we'll just take a few minutes and go out into a breakout room, and then we will be back in probably less than a minute. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chairperson, I'm ready for you as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So as to matter number 14, HA 2022-0044-2040, 4200 Chester Avenue, the appellant David Joseph, the appeal type special assembly license. Based on our discussion during the executive session, and the issues raised by Mr. Cohen and by Mr. Masters, the city is going to dismiss this appeal for lack of standing for the appellant Mr. Joseph. I'm sorry, I'm reading his name incorrectly. I believe it's David Joseph. Yes, we're going to dismiss this matter, number 14 on the list, for lack of standing.
Thank you very much, members of the board, for your considered and careful approach.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. And please thank all of the witnesses that have come forward to provide testimony. We do appreciate their time, and we hope that they are satisfied with the ruling. Thank you,
Well,
Mr.
if I can add, I would like, with the board's administration, to organize a breakout room so that I can hold a discussion with anyone here who wishes to participate, just to explain essentially what's going on. And then we'll have representatives from the law department and council member Gautier's office as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Phil, you got that?
I'll take care of it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, members of the board. May I be excused?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Masters.
Take care, Mr. Masters.
All right.
Before we call the next moot or
Next matter. Yeah.
next matter, I'd like to recall case number 1. There's an interpreter in the room for case number 1.
Absolutely.
Hello?
Hi, is the interpreter here?
Carla? Miss Jacobson?
Yes. Miss, you're okay, thank you.
Okay, hello, my name is Carla and I'll be your Spanish interpreter. ID M as in Mike, U as in uniform 465. May I introduce myself to the Spanish speaker?
Well, that's what we're going to let you know. The matter for the appellant Mixa Rodriguez was deemed moot complied by the city of Philadelphia. Ms. Rodriguez was not in the room. Now let's just check and see if she's here now.
She was in the room.
Was she in the room? I
Yes,
apologize.
she was.
I apologize. My error. Let's see if she's in the room now. Can we do that? Would Ms. Jacobson, would you ask to see if Ms. Mixa Rodriguez is present now?
Absolutely. Señorita Mixa Rodríguez se encuentra presente en esta sala.
She's dropped off,
Okay. All right.
but she wasn't at the time.
That's right. And we did tell anyone if they heard their name called and heard that decision that they were permitted to leave the room without going forward. So we thank you for your appearance, Ms. Jacobson.
You're welcome.
Perhaps we will see you again.
My honor, ma'am. Thank you for using our services. Interpreter disconnecting. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Same to you.
My pleasure.
Okay, then I guess we are now ready. Oh, well, let's see. Ms. Reinhardt, you have your hand raised.
Thank you. There's one additional administrative matter that I would like to bring to the board's attention. This is for number 37 on the list, 5609 Lindbergh Boulevard. This is for appeal number HA 2022-004453. This notice of violation was issued to a corporate entity. I'm unaware of counsel for this entity, and I have not been able to either get a response yet regarding any representation, and have not seen anyone here who clearly represents this appeal today.
Is the appellant in the room? Mr. or Ms. Jones Amaniampong, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that terribly. Is the appellant in the room? And yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Service was made.
Ms. Reinhardt, what is your preference today?
I would like the case marked as city affirmed for failure to appear.
All right. So we will poll the board on matter number 37, HA 2022-004453, 5609 Lindbergh Boulevard, Jones, Jones. I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name, is Amaniampong. Not hearing a response from the appellant, we will poll the board. City affirmed for non-appearance.
City affirmed, non-appearance.
City affirmed non-appearance.
City affirmed non-appearance.
City affirmed non-appearance.
Thank you.
What was the call time?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Pettit, do you have a time for us?
2 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Pettit. Thank you, Mr. Wade. Mr. Rulo, you have your hand raised.
Yes, very quickly. I did want to bring to the board's attention, because I know that sometimes it does handle this as a preliminary matter, but on number 30, concerning appeal number 004-475, 3850 Bennington Street, an appellant is the Noreen Cuevas. It does appear that that is an untimely appeal. I'm not sure if that wants to be addressed when that comes up on the list. I know that sometimes those are addressed, the untimely appeals are addressed at the beginning of the hearing.
Let's see, is Ms. Cuevas in the hearing room? Do we know what the, can you tell us or remind us again, please, of when the notice of violation went out and when the appeal was filed?
Yes, I'm referencing the site violation notice, which is dated, it is dated August 30th, 2022. And the appeal was filed on October 30th of 2022. The second item that I did want to note as well, and I neglected to mention this at the beginning, is that the site violation notice was issued to a Said Bousis, whereas the appellant is a Noreen Cuevas. It's unclear to me what the relationship is there, but it does not appear that the person who filed the appeal has standing. So it's both untimely and lacks standing, and at the moment it appears that they failed to appear.
Correct. And what is the city's preference?
At this time, I'd ask that it be marked, that the appeal be denied for basically all three of those reasons: failure to appear, being untimely, and lack of standing. And I would prefer that all three of those be entered into the record, since in our view, those are valid, all three separately valid reasons to deny the appeal.
Service was made.
Thank you. All right, then we will poll the board on matter number 30, HA 2022-004475, 3850 Bennington Street. The appellant is Noreen Cuevas, Cuevas. We will mark this matter as city affirmed based on the fact that the appeal was untimely, the appellant does not have standing, and the appellant failed to appear.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes.
If we just marked it failure to appear, wouldn't that incorporate all that?
Not necessarily. She could not. She might not have just shown up, and the city has requested that all of those other issues be made part of the record.
Thank you.
A little bit awkward, but I think we can manage it.
Okay, I concur with your chairperson.
City affirmed for failure to appear, standing, and lack of appearance. And timely issue.
I concur with the chair.
I concur with the chair.
Mr. Pettit, may we have the time?
It was 2:04.
Oh, you changing it? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Pettit. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you give the time earlier.
I thank the board. I know that that was a bit of an awkward one to enter, so I appreciate it, though.
Problem. Thank you so much, Mr. Rulo. Mr. Fernandez, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. Following on what Mr. Rulo discussed about untimely appeals being addressed at the top of the list, I have two appeals that I would like to object to as untimely. They are number 28. Oh, I'll take them one at a time. They're both the same appellant, but regardless, I'll keep them separate. First off is number 28 on the list, appeal ending in 3758, subject premises 2655 South Felton Street, and appellant Sean Smith. The appeal of that matter, I'm going to pull up appellant's submission because that reflects the untimeliness in and of itself. On appellant's request for an appeal, it notes that the date of the violation notice is August 5th, 2022. The second page, which is a copy of the site violation notice, confirms that. And the date that the appeals was submitted and received by the board was September 13th, 2022. That's both the date entered by the appellant next to his signature, and that is the date of the stamp. That, of course, means that the appeal was taken more than 30 days after the notice of violation was issued and after it had expired. I would therefore ask that this appeal be marked city affirmed due to the appeal being late. Additionally, I do not believe that Sean Smith is here. I would therefore ask that it also be marked city affirmed for failure to appear, and I'll limit myself to 2 grounds for city affirmed rather than 3 like Mr. Rulo's situation.
And can I ask if your issue of untimeliness applies also to the second matter, number 29, where Mr.
Yes,
Smith?
I believe that the timing is exactly the same on that matter. I'm going to pull up appellant's appeal application to be certain. And yes, so regarding number 29 on the list, appeal, do you want me to read that information into the record now, or I can simply answer your
No, you can
question?
just tell me right now whether or not the issues are the same in terms of the filing of the, as the date of the NOV and then the filing of the appeal.
Yes, exact same issue, exact same dates, and the city's request is exactly the same.
Is Mr. Sean Smith present in the hearing room? Mr. Sean Smith.
Service was made. Both cases were continued from August 1st. Service was made for the August 1st hearing, and service was made for this hearing.
Okay. All right. I think in this instance we will take the recommendation of the city and enter a decision on behalf of the city in both matters. I will read into the record case number 28, HA 2022-003758, 2655 South Felton Street. The appellant is Sean Smith. City affirmed for untimeliness and lack of appearance.
City affirmed for untimeliness and for lack of appearance. And the time was 2:08.
Thank you.
City affirmed for untimeliness and lack of appearance.
City affirmed for untimeliness, lack of appearance. And was it standing also?
No, not this one. No
Not
standing.
lack of appearance. Basically, I concur with the chair.
I concur with the chair.
Thank you. Case number 29, hearing number HA 2023-002880. The address is 2655 South Felton Street. Appellant is Sean Smith. We will poll the board. The time now, Mr. Pettit.
2:09.
City affirmed for lack of appearance and untimeliness.
City affirmed for lack of appearance and untimeliness.
City affirmed for lack of appearance and untimeliness.
City affirmed. I concur with. Y'all gotta excuse me for a moment. I concur with the chair.
I concur with the chair.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Is that everything, Mr. Fernandez?
Yes, that concludes my business for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, Mr. Wade, we're ready to go
If
down the list.
If I could just make a brief announcement before we start with the list. Is there anyone still in the room that was supposed to be in the breakout room for 4200 Chester? If you speak up, I can place you in the breakout room. I do see some names that appear.
Yes.
Okay, your name, sir?
Jean-Marie Kouassi. Oh, okay. I see the breakout room, John.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Matthew Perks. I'm sorry, I don't see it.
Okay, I'll give it to you.
Thank you. Yep.
Anyone else that's supposed to be in the breakout room with Mr. Cohen? On 4200 Chester.
Okay. With that, we'll just go to the top of the list. That's fair. This case number 2, hearing appeal HA 2022-004503, 454 Delmar Street, Sam Elias.
Good afternoon, board members. This is Michael Rouleau again on behalf of the city of Philadelphia.
Hello, this is Sam
Hello,
Elias.
Amanda. Oh, Mr. Elias?
Hi, good afternoon. This is Sam Elias, representing the 454 Delmar Street.
Okay, thank you. So, what will happen now, Mr. Elias, is that the city will present its case to the board. You will have an opportunity to cross-examine any witnesses the city may present. And then after they are concluding their case, you will be able to put your matter on. Okay, do you understand?
Would you explain, please?
So the city will explain to the board why it wishes to, or why it filed a NOV against you regarding the rental license. It will put its own witnesses on and provide any testimony they think will be relevant to us to make a determination. If they present witnesses, you will have an opportunity to ask those witnesses questions about what they testified to.
Okay.
Okay, and then after the city presents its case, then you will be able to tell the board what your position is regarding the violation that was issued to you.
All right.
Mr. Rulo, would you like to make an opening statement?
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Ellis, you have two things open.
I do. Because the one on the computer that I have on my computer, it does not show. Oh, it shows my. I'm not sure. Yeah, it shows my. Now it's showing my. My video. Shall I just leave one of them open?
Yeah, just leave the one open that shows your video. And while and while you are on screen, Mr. Elias, I'm going to go ahead and swear you in at this point. Would you please raise your right hand? Can you move your screen over a little bit so I can see your hand? Uh-oh.
He was.
Yeah,
he was
right
fine.
Mr. Elias?
Hello?
Yep, I think you closed the wrong device.
Hello?
Yes.
This is Sam. I'm not sure why the video went away.
Okay, take a moment and see if you can get your video back, please.
He's going to need to use both devices.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Elias, did you hear Mr. Wade explain that you may need to use both devices? Mr. Elias, can you hear me? Mr. Wade, do you think he needs to go back in the breakout room and then come back in, or?
I'm waiting for him to rejoin right now.
He's back.
Okay. Mr. Elias, would you unmute yourself, please? Mr. Elias, can you hear me?
I can, but it's very, very low.
Okay. Well, we will try to. What are you doing?
Hi. Can you?
Oh, I see you're putting your ear close to your telephone.
Yes.
Okay. So obviously you can hear me then.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Elias, would you please raise your right hand so you can be sworn? You swear or affirm that the testimony you will give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Rulo, do you want to make an opening statement?
Yes, very briefly. So in this matter, the city had issued a site violation notice for lack of a rental license at a property located at 454 Delmar Street. As a preliminary matter, I would like to note that the only reason listed in the appeal was, quote, violation issued while in process of changing use of property back to the original multi-use, end quote. So as a preliminary matter, the city would just like to note that it was not disputed whether or not a rental license was obtained for the property at the time that the violation was issued. I understand that the board will, want to proceed with testimony nevertheless, but the city's initial position would be the violation should be upheld because there was no dispute recorded regarding the existence of the rental license and thus the validity of the violation for not having one. So that would just be our opening position. And with that, I would call Inspector Francine Griffin, who is the inspector, and ask that they be sworn in.
Thank you, Mr. Rulo. Ms. Griffin? Inspector Griffin, are you present?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Okay, and I do see you now. Thank you. Inspector, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Did you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Inspector Griffin. Can you explain what your position is with the Department of Licenses and Inspections?
The property maintenance and fire codes for the Department of Licenses and Inspection.
Okay, so I think the first part was cut off there, but you're an inspector for those types of cases, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And are you familiar with the property located at 454 Delmar Street?
Yes.
And have you conducted inspections regarding that property before?
Yes, just for the license, so no interior inspection.
Okay, thank you. With the board's permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Sure, thank you.
And I will zoom in on this, but as an initial matter, Inspector Griffin, can you see on the screen what has been preliminarily marked as City Exhibit A?
Just see Exhibit A.
Okay, great. So again, this has been preliminarily marked as City Exhibit A. I'm now moving to the second page of this document. Can you see what the document that's displayed on the screen now?
It zoomed in because I'm using my phone.
Okay. I've zoomed in a bit more. Can you see this clearly now?
Yes.
Okay. What is this document?
That is a site violation notice that was issued back in October of 2022.
Okay, and I'm going to go down here now. This was issued for the property located at 454 Delmar Street, correct?
Yes.
And it was for lack of a rental license in a 1 or 2 family dwelling. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And does that property have a rental license yet?
No, it does not.
So it is still not in compliance.
Correct.
And it was not in compliance in October 2022 when this was issued as well.
Correct.
Okay. And this site violation notice imposed a statutory fine of $1,000, and that's denoted on this document as well, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to move down to what has been preliminarily marked as City Exhibit B, which is now displayed on the screen. I'm going to zoom out here a little bit since it is a photo. Inspector Griffin, can you see the photo on this in the screen?
Yes.
And is this the subject property, 454 Delmar Street? Yes. And what indications did you find that led you to conclude that the property was being rented?
Actually, when the date of the inspection, the owner came out of the rear of the property, and he stated to me that he occupies the property as well, and that he did have a rental license. But when I got back to the office, I found that there was no rental license in Eclipse.
Okay. So he kind of conceded to you that this was being used as well as his occupancy as a rental property as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I have a second photo here of this property, and this is a picture of it as well, correct?
Yes.
You have to speak up, Ms. Griffin, a little bit. It's difficult to hear you.
Yes.
Okay. And finally, I missed this. I'm going to return to Exhibit A very quickly. So you had indicated that there was both the occupancy by the appellant and then by another individual. On the notice of site violation notice, excuse me, I'm going to zoom in. down here where it actually cites the property, it specifically denotes, quote, 454 Delmart Street, number 2. So this was reflecting what you found in terms of there, in fact, being 2 units at the property, correct?
I believe that is just what came up when I put the address in for the location. That's just what came up as the parcel.
Okay. All right, that concludes with my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rulo. Mr. Elias, do you have any questions of Inspector Griffin based on what she has testified to this afternoon?
Yes, may I say something?
No, right now I'm asking you if you have any questions of the inspector. If you don't have any questions, that's perfectly fine. And then we can go forward with your case.
For the inspector, no.
Okay.
But for the case, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Rulo, do you have any other witnesses or anything else you'd like to put on?
I would just ask that City Exhibits A and B be admitted into the record.
So noted. All right, Mr. Elias, what would you like to tell us about your position regarding the notice of violation?
Sure. I'm not sure if you can see on my Eclipse, but I have already at that time before Mr. Griffin came and took a look to the on the property, I have already filed and I applied for the license on October 15, 2021. And when I did that, I was told at the desk it will take 6 to 8 months to get a reply since all that COVID cases was going on, and it will be during that time I will hear something. I used to come back after 6 months, and about 7 to 8 months after I finished my final exams, I went out there. They said it's been withdrawn because it's been a long time and you didn't track it. But I used to go like every 2-3 months to track it. I didn't even have any mail when I applied for the zone to give me the license. Then I went back. They told me to come back again and reapply again, and I did that again in 2022.
Yeah, I just want to enter this for the purposes of the record, but I think we've heard a lot of hearsay here from parties that are not present. I mean, that's been pretty central to what's been testified as to so far. So for the purposes of the record, I just like to lodge a hearsay objection.
So noted, Mr. Rulo. Go ahead, Mr. Elias.
Yes. So after that, I applied again, and I paid all the fees again, and then I was granted the license. And I also at this time I'm in a process to finish all the lead for the city. So the city gave me most of the property approval for the lead clearance, except for one of the room has old paint. They didn't give me approval for it, so I'm waiting for that to be finished so that I can submit that to the city.
Mr. Elias, did you present any documentation such as a copy of your application for the rental license back in 2021 to board's administration when this hearing was scheduled?
I cannot recall. I don't remember.
Did you provide a copy of your current license to board's administration when you knew you were going to have this hearing today?
No.
Anybody else have any questions? Anyone else from the board have questions for Mr. Elias? I beg your pardon. No, go ahead. Mr. Rulo, I beg your pardon that I should have allowed you to cross-examine before I asked Mr. Elias his question. Do you have any cross-examination of Mr.
Very
Elias?
briefly. Mr. Elias, it appears that you're conceding that the property was in fact being rented, or at least partially rented. Am I correct?
What time? Yes.
Okay.
Because I didn't know anything about any license, because at that time when we finished renovating the apartment, we hired a realtor to find us a rental, somebody to rent the apartment. But at that time, this person didn't mention anything about the rules of the city, so I was not aware of any of that at that time.
Okay, and you said that, if I heard you correctly just there, you said that you renovated the property?
Yes, like mostly painting and one or two doors that I replaced. So no major buildings. So that's what I meant by renovating.
Okay. And when did you say you applied for that permit? I mean, not permit, excuse me, the rental license?
It was the first time, it was October 15, 2021.
2021?
Correct.
Okay.
And this was actually after that, as I mentioned before, was denied, and I applied again for it for the second time, and then I got the approval for the zoning. Then I continued the process, and now I'm about to finish the lead certificate so that I'll be able to submit it to the city.
But at the time that this violation notice was issued on October 7th, 2022, you'd agree that you did not have a rental license?
I did not, but I had the application. I have the application.
But you haven't presented that to the board today, correct?
No.
That does it for my questions.
Does anyone from the board have any questions for Mr. Elias? Nope. Hearing none, I think that we are ready now. Mr. Rulo, to hear your closing remarks.
Yes, I will be brief. This was a violation for lack of a rental license. I think it's been admitted that when this violation was issued, there was no rental license. So I think that it's fairly straightforward in that sense, and we would ask for this to be a city affirm.
Thank you, Mr. Rulo. Mr. Elias, would you like to tell us anything, make a closing statement that would help us make a decision?
I was just trying to say, I applied a couple of times and I didn't even get a refund for the first time when it was denied, and they asked me to actually submit a refund cases, but I didn't because I know it's a long process for the first application, and I think is the amount of money that I put on the violation. I think it's kind of too much, and I ask if that can be reduced to any minimum.
Thank you, Mr. Elias. I believe, having heard the testimony of both from the city's witness and from the appellant, we will now poll the board. Mr. Pettit, may we have the time, please?
2:29 p.m.
Thank you very much. City affirm.
City affirmed.
City affirm.
City affirm.
City affirmed.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we heard
Okay.
you, Mr. Washington. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Elias, the board has voted unanimously, city affirmed. That means that you have lost your appeal. You may appeal our decision. You can get instructions from board's administration as to how to go about doing that. Their telephone number should be at the bottom of your appeal paperwork. Thank you very much for appearing today.
I just have one question. Usually, sometimes if there is any violation, they send it to my previous mail address, even though that I have already asked to correct that my address like a few times. It doesn't seem that any violation that I receive comes to my actual current address.
Well, I believe that correction of your address in city records has to be taken up by you with the city of Philadelphia. I'm not really sure at the moment which office should be doing that for you, but if you contact board's administration, they can give you some assistance as to how you can go about getting your correct address put into the city system.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Elias.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Brings us to case number 18, hearing appeal HA 2022 004521 1105 North 40th Street. Mike Asaya.
Yes, good afternoon.
afternoon. Is it Isaiah or is it Isa, Mr. Isa?
Isa, yes.
Isa, thank you very
Yes,
much.
ma'am.
And who is representing the city of Philadelphia on this matter?
Lee Bagelman for the city of Philadelphia.
Thank you, Mr. Bagelman. Mr. Bagelman, do
Madam
you?
Chair, just so I'm clear, his mark down here is Andrew Isa.
Yeah, he's my
Isa.
son. I'm right here. Hi, good afternoon. How are you?
So, Mr. Michael Isa, you are the appellant.
Mike Isa. I'm
Mike
sorry.
Isa, you are the appellant?
Yes,
Okay. And you're using your son Andrew's device, is that correct?
yeah, he's very technologically savvy, so I'm just trying to make sure.
I changed it.
Mr. Andrew Isa, are you going to be testifying at all with regard to your father or your father's appeal?
I don't think there is even need for that.
Okay, I just want to be sure because Mr. Andrew Isa may not testify or speak during the course of the hearing. If he were to do so, I would need to swear him in. So that's why I asked that question.
Okay.
Mr. Bagelman, you have witnesses on this matter?
Yes, Inspector Bruce Wallace.
Inspector Wallace, are you present? Inspector Bruce Wallace. Oh, I do see his name. I just don't.
President, I had to unmute my microphone.
Okay. Can you make yourself visible? Okay, terrific. Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Mr. Isa and Inspector Wallace, would you both please raise your right hands? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bagelman, would you like to make an opening statement?
No, we can get right into testimony here. Do I have permission to share my screen?
Yes, you do.
Hang on one second. Great. Good afternoon, Inspector Wallace. I think you might be on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Good afternoon.
Can you please state your name and position for the record?
My name is Inspector Bruce Wallace. I am currently a fire inspector for the City of Philadelphia Licenses and Inspection.
Great. I'm going to show you what I've previously marked as Exhibit A. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Do you recognize this document?
Yes, it's a site violation notice.
And what date was this site violation notice issued?
October 5th, 2022.
And what was the address or the premises that the site violation notice was issued to?
1105 North 40th Street.
Did you inspect the property at 1105 North 40th Street on October 5th, 2022?
I did.
And was this the site violation notice you issued on October 5th, 2022?
That is correct.
Great. And what was the violation issued in this notice?
To obtain a vacant structure license.
And is it against the Philadelphia Code to own a building or structure that is vacant without a vacant structure license?
You have to have a license whether the structure is either vacant, you have to have a vacant license, or if the structure is occupied, a rental license.
Yeah. Great. I want to show you what I previously marked as City Exhibit B. Do you recognize this image?
It's the front of the property.
Did you take this picture?
Yes.
Did you take it on October 5th, 2022?
Yes, October 5th, 2022 at 12:12 in the afternoon.
And could you describe what's in this image for the record?
You see the address, which is posted 1105. You see boarded windows on the first floor of the what might potentially be the commercial space.
Are there there are two boarded up pictures in this picture? Boarded up windows in this picture?
The green boards are another parcel.
Got it. But there's a boarded up window in the front and then a basement.
In the basement, yes, that is correct.
And was anyone at the premises when you inspected the property on
No,
October 5th, 2022?
nobody was present.
Great. I'm also going to show you what was previously marked City Exhibit C. What is this document I'm showing on my screen?
This is a rental license.
Is it a rental license for the property at 1105 North 40th Street?
That is correct.
What was the date this rental license was issued?
It was issued, I'm going to say the effective date would be 5/5/2020.
And what is the expiration date of this rental license?
4/15/2021.
I'm going to scroll back up to Exhibit A. When you inspected the property on October 5th, 2022, did you check to see if there's an active rental license on the property?
That is correct.
And did you see that Exhibit C, that the rental license was expired as of April 15th, 2021?
That is correct.
So when you inspected, once again, when you inspected the property, you saw boarded up windows, no one at the subject premises, and an expired rental license. Is that correct?
Correct.
And did all of that, based on your experience, lead you to conclude that the property was vacant when you inspected the property on October 5th, 2022?
That is correct.
Great. I have no further questions for the inspector.
Thank you, Mr. Begelman. Mr. Issa, do you have any questions of Mr. Wallace based on his testimony only?
Yeah, I just want to say just how he decided it. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I asked you at that. I just asked you, Mr. Issa, if you have any questions that you would like to pose to Mr. Wallace based on the testimony that he just gave to the board.
Yes.
Okay, you may proceed with your questions.
Yeah. How did you decide, Mr. Wallace or Inspector Wallace, that nobody lives there?
Nobody answered the door.
Yeah. And it's you know, like in and out. My son is there. It's
No,
not.
I'm sorry. That only questions, Mr. Issa, at this moment. You'll be able to present your case in a few moments, but do you have any other questions that you would like to ask Inspector Wallace?
Did he knock on the door?
Yes.
And nobody answered?
No, sir.
Okay.
No more questions?
Yeah, no more question.
Thank you. Does anyone from the board have any questions for Inspector Wallace? Inspector Wallace, I have just one or two. In the photograph that Mr. Rouleau showed, it appeared that there were windows above the ground floor that might have been boarded. Was that the case? Second floor windows boarded up as well?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Can you tell us what that was above the, what you thought might be the commercial space? Thank you, Mr. Begelman, for sharing your screen again. Do you see right above the cornice?
Yes. That could be. I mean, the picture is not really giving me that much. I didn't write the second floor as being vacant. Again, that picture is not really giving much in regards to the second floor. So okay. I really couldn't testify to say whether it is or it's not vacant or there was boards, because again, the initial complaint was in regards to the first floor and the commercial space.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions from anyone else on the board?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr.
Wallace. Inspector Wallace, how many times did you go to the property?
Before the case is closed and sent to court, we're the first time is the initial inspection, and then 2 times after.
And when was those dates?
The date, I don't have those dates in front of me. I can pull the case file up. Let me tell you that right here. I was there at the property on October 5th. I was then at the property again on
What year?
October 5th, 2022.
Okay.
November 9th, 2022.
Okay.
And then I returned to the property for the last time for a case file, December 15th, 2022.
And that's when you had determined it, because no answer, you determined that it was vacant.
Yes.
Well, excuse me, Board Member Washington, I hate to interrupt, but I just want to remind the board that this was a site violation notice issued on October 5th, 2022. So it was a violation that reflected the condition of the premises on October 5th, 2022, and not any subsequent re-inspections that Mr. Wallace, Inspector Wallace may have had on the property, that this was a violation issued based on the property as it existed on October 5th, 2022. Should make that point record.
Mr. Bigelman, just so I'm clear. So this is just based on the one time that he visited by knocking on the door.
Correct. This notice was issued on October 5th, 2022, based on the condition of the premises on that date. This was a site violation notice. Correct.
No more questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. Any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none. We will move now to Mr. Issa. Would you like to tell us what your response is to the site violation notice?
Yeah, in noticing that there is like in the front of boarding or something on the ground, that place is a tough area. And we had a lot of problems. People even put things in the front of the, so it's like every time you might find something there, and we try to clean it and comply with the city rules every time. So the place was occupied upstairs. The commercial ones you saw it upstairs is occupied by my son as a primary residence. So that's the situation. So if I was renting it, I would, because I had the rental license before when I was renting. When we didn't have the rental, we used it, my son, because he was, living in Philadelphia, going back and forth and to the, his family there. And it was the pandemic times at that time, as you know.
Mr. Issa, are you telling us that your son lived in the property periodically, that he would be there for a period of time and then leave and then come back at some other time?
Most of the time, yeah. He never left it more than like a few weeks,
So it's
because
not
that was his base. Until we just rented to another, and we got renewed the rental license. He left for.
Even though your son was living in the second floor, was the first floor occupied by a business entity or another occupant?
Absolutely not. No, it still is not occupied by anybody.
And you did hear the testimony of Inspector Wallace that the site violation notice was issued for the first floor only. Did you hear that?
No, we communicated. No, we communicated with Inspector Wallace, and we asked him, and he understood the situation and said, the violation is already written and you can appeal. And he was very professional, and he said, it's out of my hands, so you can appeal it. And that's why I'm here today with you.
Ms. Penn, I have a question for Inspector Wallace, if I may, Mr. Rullo.
Sure.
The violation, Inspector Wallace, was written specifically for the first floor?
No, that's not what I said.
That's what I want clarification.
No, sir. The violation was written for the building. The reason that I was out there was because of the first floor.
Thank you.
Sorry, Inspector Wallace, could you just clarify that for me and the rest of the board, that if you were writing the violation for the entire building, then what difference is it? I'm not sure I understand what you mean by you're being out there for the first floor.
So the complaint was written because the fire alarm wasn't being monitored. The fire alarm systems are not, when vacant buildings, fire protection systems are to be either a sign posted saying that these systems are out of service or they're to be kept in working order. The complaint was issued by the building company, the fire protection company that normally monitors his system, saying that the fire system is out of service. Upon inspection, there was no signs outside of the property saying that the fire system was out of service. There was no current certifications on the property. They in turn got the fire alarm, got it certified. There was still nobody saying that the property was occupied. There was no encounter of anybody or any persons at the property. The violation, his rental license was good April 16th, 2021, and that rental license expired April 15th, 2022. I arrived at the property on October the 5th, of 2022, which in turn no rental license. Nobody's answering the door. The property is vacant. The boards on the first floor all pointed to the property being vacant.
Thank you, Inspector. Any other questions from anyone on the board? Mr. Begelman, would you like to give a closing statement?
Very, very briefly, you heard the testimony of Inspector Wallace about the lack of fire certifications, lack of fire protection, and the complaint that brought him out to the property on October 5th, 2022, the picture showing the boarded up business, the lack of anyone on the property at the time or subsequent inspections. The appellant, Mr. Issa, has brought no evidence to the board showing that anyone was occupying this building at the time. And so for that, the city asked DMARC this a city affirm. Thank you.
Mr. Issa, anything else you would like to add to your testimony that would help the board?
The fire certification was valid. I don't know how I'm hearing this. So,
so can you explain a little bit further what you mean?
I mean, it was corrected for the fire certification. So we did everything we needed to do, and I didn't think there is any violation on that. So, and again, to say the second one is not like rented. It's not rented. It's for the family. So we didn't have to have a rental license, and the downstairs, which he mentioned, it's a commercial thing, is still vacant, that commercial, and I'm waiting to to have some money to do something downstairs. So
can you tell the board, please, when the fire protection certification was issued?
I'm sorry?
You just testified that you had a current or operating fire protection system. When was the certification for the system issued?
When we rented, yes.
That's well, I need a date, Mr. Issa.
It's let me see. It's what's and he came in for that. So it's the rented. I mean, it's on record. It's rented now, and it's everything is all right, and we have.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Issa.
Madam Chair, I have a question for Mr. Issa. Mr. Issa, at the time of the site violation notice, you had no certificate of non-rental and you had no vacant license applying to the property, correct?
Repeat the question, please. I'm sorry. Let me concentrate on.
At the time of the violation notice, you had no certificate of non-rental and you had no vacant license, correct?
Yes, because we were living in the place. It's not rented, and Mr. Wallace or Inspector Wallace was let in by us.
Well, he testified that he did not get in. And we saw pictures of the property boarded up. In particular,
we had to reach to him. We had to reach to him. We communicated with him. After we received the violation notice, we had to communicate with him, and we talked to him and explained the situation for him, and he understood that.
No further question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tennant. Any other questions from the board? All right, then I think we've heard enough from both the city and the appellant to go forward with the vote. Matter number 18, HA 2022-004521, 1105 North 40th Street, appellant Mike Issa, city affirm.
City affirm.
City affirm.
City affirm.
City affirmed.
Mr. Issa, the board has voted unanimously city affirm. That means that you have lost your appeal. You may appeal our decision, and to do that, you can contact board's administration at the number that is listed at the bottom of your appeal paperwork. They can tell you what to do to appeal our decision. Thank you so much for appearing today. Have a great afternoon. I think that this might be a good time to take a very brief recess, a bit of a comfort break for roughly 10 minutes, and then we will come right back and finish the list. Mr. Wade?
Okay.
Okay, I think. I believe everyone is returned. I think we can go forward now with the balance of the list, Mr. Wade.
Okay. That brings us to case 22. Hearing appeal HA 2022 004507 1421 West Fisher Ave, Edward Jones.
This is Christopher Johnson for the city of Philadelphia. I don't believe anyone has appeared on this.
Let's call for the appellant. Please, Mr. Edward Jones. Is Mr. Edward Jones in the hearing room?
Service was made.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Mr. Pettit, may we have the time? Oh, I beg your pardon. You're muted.
3:03 p.m.
Mr. Johnson, what's your pleasure?
The city requests that it be it's marked city affirm non-appearance.
Thank you very much. So we'll poll the board. City affirm for not, I'm sorry, case number 22, HA 2022 004507, 1421 West Fisher Avenue, Edward Jones. City affirm for non-appearance.
City affirm non-appearance.
City affirm non-appearance.
I'm sorry, city affirm non-appearance.
City affirm non-appearance.
Thank you very much.
Case number 27. Case number 27. Hearing appeal HA 2022 004809 1323 West Rush Street, Slava Stepanov.
Will Fernandez on behalf of the city.
I'm here.
You're frozen.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Mr. Wade?
Yes, Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Stepanov.
Yes, how are you?
Are you in a moving vehicle?
I am.
You need to be pulled over and stationary.
Just give me 1 second, please. I'll pull over right away. All right.
Okay.
Counsel on this matter for the city?
Will Fernandez on behalf of the city of Philadelphia.
All right, Mr. Fernandez, do you have witnesses that are you're going to call?
I do. My witness for this matter is Inspector Robert Curran. Curran, you can correct me, Inspector. Apologize if I got it wrong. You're on mute.
Yes, Robert Curran.
Curran, thank you.
Mr. Slava, can you hear us?
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you well.
Thank you. I am going to swear both you and the inspector in at this time. Mr. Curran, will you unmute this? Mr. Slava, would you raise your right hand, please?
Sure.
The contractor has to approve that he's going to be on that permit.
Mr. Curran, are those folks talking behind you?
So say I was.
Yes, I'm in the office.
You get an alert saying.
Could you just ask them to maybe give you to move away for about 10 minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Slava, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give today will be the truth? the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you so much. You may put your hand down. And then we will wait for Mr. Curran to come back. Ready, Mr. Curran?
Yes. I'm sorry, office is packed.
I understand. Could you raise your right hand, please?
Yeah.
Do you swear that the testimony you will give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We'll do our best, Mr. Fernandez, but perhaps if the noise gets very loud, Mr. Curran may have to move to another room.
Yes, and in fact, I think it may be possible. We'll see in a moment to stipulate to many of the facts here based on the appellant's appeal packet. If you give me a moment, I am going to share my screen and give an introductory statement. You should be able to see a violation notice in order to correct on the screen, marked City Exhibits page 1. This is the notice of violation that is at issue today. Excuse me. There are 2 violations, one for installing star bolts at the property at 1323 West Rush Street without a permit, and the other violation for generally doing structural work, structural repair to a building without the permits, specifically 2 new lintels, one above the basement window and one above the first floor window. Mr. Slava, in his appeal of these violations, notes that he purchased the property as is, but does not deny that the violations as written are accurate. I don't necessarily need to or want to contest that Mr. Slava purchased the property and inherited the violations. However, given the potential difficulties of putting on Mr. Curran's testimony, I was going to ask if Mr. Slava would agree to stipulate that these photographs seen here, City Exhibit page 4, where you can see new framing around the window, new lintels, and you can see star bolts here, if they accurately reflect the condition of the property. And even though it is not included in my evidence packet, and I apologize for that, I can also use Google Street Images to show that both the lintels and the framing around the window and the star bolts did not exist as of 2019, and that's per Google Street View photography. So if Mr. Slava stipulates to that, then I think this becomes a purely legal dispute. However, of course, if he doesn't wish to stipulate that these photographs accurately reflect the status of the property, then I would put on Inspector Curran's testimony.
You see, sir.
Mr. Slava?
Yes.
Mr. Slava.
I'm here.
Okay. Do you understand what the attorney for the city, Mr. Fernandez, is asking of you when he asks if you will stipulate?
Not really. You see, I purchased the property with the lintels being there, and a street picture showing this property before me purchasing it, with those lintels.
Okay, but my question, so Mr. Slava, you're telling us that you don't understand what it means to stipulate to facts. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez, do you want to explain to Mr. Slava what it is that you are asking of him in
Of course.
plain English?
Yes, Mr. Slava, normally I would have the inspector swear in and then testify, tell the Board of L&I Review that these photographs taken in December of 2022 reflect what he observed when he saw the property, that there are star bolts there, that there is framing around the window, it looks like fresh framing, and that new lintels have been installed. And then you would have an opportunity to ask him questions. Instead, because of the office noise that exists in Inspector Curran's office, I was asking if you would essentially admit that these photographs are accurate and that this is what the property looks like, The reason I ask that is because in your appeal, you make a legal argument basically saying, I bought the property as is. I didn't know that this was a violation, but you don't dispute that the star bolts have been installed without permits or that the lintels were installed without permits.
Does that help you, Mr. Slava?
It does. The starboard bolt installed by myself, so I affirm this part. The lintels wasn't installed by myself. I'm not really sure what kind of a violation is that, and where city seeing a structural work done on the job.
Before you go,
that
Mr. Slava, before you go any further, rather, you're saying you understand what Mr. Fernandez is asking of you. So are you willing,
I do.
So are you willing to agree then that the photographs that he is showing us, do you see the photographs on your phone?
I do, Sim, yes.
Okay. Are you then willing to agree that the photographs correctly reflect the condition of your property at the time the notice of violation was written?
Yes.
And that is what you're asking him to stipulate to. Is that correct, Mr. Fernandez?
I see.
That is correct. And then I would just ask Inspector Curran a single question just to confirm that there are no permits in the system legalizing this work.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Inspector Curran, can you briefly introduce yourself and state your position of employment?
Yes, I'm a building inspector for the city of Philadelphia.
Did you have an opportunity to review city records and Eclipse regarding 1323 West Rush Street?
I briefly did this morning, and there's still no permits in the system to rectify the violations.
Okay, and when you say the violations, you're referring to the star bolts and to the other structural work around the windows?
Yes, the 5 star bolts that were installed and the 2 lintels.
Thank you. I have no further questions for the inspector.
Mr. Slava, it is your right to ask questions of Mr. Curran based on what he has just testified to following Mr. Fernandez's questioning. Do you have any questions of the inspector?
I do.
Based on his testimony only?
I do. Inspector, how are you? Here's my question. Are we agree that this wall is not a bearing wall?
I would object to the relevance of the question since this isn't an unsafe designation and there's no relevance the structural component the wall provides.
Correct. And Mr. Slava, Mr. Curran did not give any testimony as to the structural components of the wall where the bolts are located. You can ask him a question based on what he's testified to this morning, but I would ask you not to introduce new issues that have not been raised.
I got you. It's all connected because those star bolts are just decoration. There is no structural issue at the building. Not
so
now,
what is your
then
question?
not
So
before.
what is your, Mr. Slava, then what is your question to Mr. Curran? If you don't have a question, that's perfectly fine, and we can proceed on to your aspect of the
All right.
case.
I don't have questions.
All right. Thank you so much. Mr. Fernandez, do you have any other witnesses or any other evidence that you would like to produce?
I have no further witnesses or evidence. I would ask that the city's exhibit packet, given Mr. Slava's earlier stipulation and Inspector Curran's testimony, be moved into evidence, and then I would reserve, obviously, cross-examination and closing statement.
So moved.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Slava, it is your opportunity to put your matter on. Tell us what the situation is in your mind regarding the violation notice in order to correct.
Sure. As I said before, I purchased this property with the lintels installed there. Those lintels bear nothing. It's just a decoration. There is no structural issue with this building, even in the facade. So it's just a decoration. Star bolts, it's the same thing. All right. I installed the star bolt just trying to do a preventive maintenance of a kind because it's not building is not falling. There is no structural issues at all. You can remove those star bolts tomorrow and it would be the same thing. I mean, I don't understand why city, picking up on those decorations.
Okay. Mr. Slava, do you have any witnesses that you are going to present today or any
No.
evidence other than your own testimony?
No, I'm a licensed contractor, so I don't have any witnesses. I don't need any witnesses.
Are there any questions from the board for Mr. Slava?
Madam Chair, I do have a question for Mr. Slavo. Mr. Slavo, you stated that the star bolts are strictly for decoration and you installed them for preventive maintenance?
Yeah.
Preventive maintenance from what?
You see, sir, this building staying there since 19th century. All right. And it's pretty much stable. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with the facade of this building. So given the take that half of the houses on this block are kind of like have a cracks here and there, and they are not stable, I decide that, I'll just install those bolts, to just make sure that it's nothing going to happen to this house. So there is no structural issue there.
My question, thank you. My question wasn't about structural issues, but you answered saying that the house is stable and there's nothing wrong with the facade. So you're saying you put the star bolts in as a preventive maintenance, but then you said there's nothing structural. So I'm not real clear on your meaning for a decorative star bolts for facade issues on other properties to prevent this one from not getting to that level.
I'm not really understand, sir, what you're trying to tell me.
You put in star bolts for decorative reasons, but there's nothing wrong with the facade.
Yes, there's nothing wrong with the facade. You can remove the star bolts.
But you observed other properties that had cracks in the facade on the block, correct?
Yes.
So you were placing the star bolts in there to prevent this from happening in the future, correct?
Yes, sir. You see, the house on the right and the house on the left would be demolished soon. They are abandoned. They are in a bad shape. There is a princess trees, on the yards of those houses. It's just a matter of a time when city will come and do a demolition. At the time of demolition, I don't want anything happen to my house. That's all.
You don't want anything to happen to the facade or the structure of your property.
Yes,
So then the star bolts were not placed in there for decorative reasons. You just stated that you had a purpose for them.
You see, sir, all right, they have a purpose, but it's still a decoration.
But they have a purpose, and that purpose was not decorative, correct? Which you stated.
This purpose would not be decorative when the time came, but this time is not now. The houses on the left and the right are still there.
So you're answering that they are there for more than a decorative reason, correct? For structural facade.
It's a decoration. They're not holding this facade. You can remove them.
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tennant. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Slava?
I have no further questions and would just proceed to closing.
Please proceed, Mr. Fernandez.
Thank you, Ms. Chair, person, and members of the board. You heard testimony from Mr. Slava himself that he installed the star bolts. I would offer that it does not matter whether the purpose was decorative or preventative. Beyond that, I would say that on balance from his testimony, it seems that they were preventative and do serve an intended structural purpose, even if in Mr. Slava's estimation, that purpose is not necessary until the future. So this is a simple one. construction was performed without a permit, and that construction requires a permit. So I would ask the board to uphold the violations, ordering Mr. Slava to provide an engineer's report and to acquire a permit for all alterations that were made. Excuse me, a bit of a tongue twister. That concludes my closing. Thank you, members of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Mr. Slava, do you have any other information or a statement you would like to make to the board to help us?
No, not really. Everything is pretty much clear.
Thank you so much. All right, then I think it's appropriate for us to proceed to a vote at this time. Matter number 27, appeal number HA 2022-004809, 1323 West Rush Street, Slava Stepanov. City affirmed.
City affirmed.
City affirmed.
City affirmed.
City affirmed.
Mr. Slava, the board has voted unanimously, city affirmed. This means you have lost your appeal. You may appeal our decision, and instructions as how to do that can be obtained from the board's administration. Their telephone number should be at the bottom of the paperwork you received for your appeal. We thank you for your appearance today. Have an excellent afternoon and good luck in future. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, members of the board. That concludes my business today. Thank you all very much for your time and attention today.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam, yes. Can I be excused from the remainder of the balance of the hearings today? I think we only have one case left.
No, we've got, I think, 3, but yes, 2 more, but you may be excused.
We got 2, we got 2 more?
I think we have 2 more. I believe we have number 30 and number 32. Mr. Wade will correct me if I'm wrong about that. I don't think we had a decision on 30.
Number 30, I have non-appearance at 2:04.
You are correct, Mr. Washington, so we have just 1 matter left. Thank you.
May I be excused?
Absolutely, sir. You may be excused.
Thank you, and I'll talk to everybody Thursday. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
There.
Mr. Wade, would you call the final case?
Madam Chair, was number 29 resolved?
Let's see. Yes, number 29 was city affirmed. City affirmed with failure to appear and untimeliness at 2:09. I'm sorry. Yes, at 2:09 p.m.
28 and 29 were the same. Forgive me. Thank you.
That's quite all right. Mr. Wade.
The final matter is case number 32, hearing appeal HA 2022-003971, 430 Miller Street, Mark Sellers.
Good
Here.
afternoon. Yeah, Mr. Sellers?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Who's the attorney handling this? Is that you, Mr. Begelman?
It is Lee Begelman for the city.
Thank you. Please proceed, Mr. Begelman.
I have Inspector Mark Green here to testify.
Inspector Green?
Uh,
Any other, besides Mr. Green, are there any other witnesses that you might have?
No.
Okay. Mr. Sellers, do you have any witnesses other than yourself who are going to testify today?
No, and I would be willing to stipulate to all of the exhibits.
Okay. At this time, I'm just concerned about swearing both you and Inspector Green in. So would you kindly raise your right hand, please? Inspector Green, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I affirm.
I'm sorry, swear or affirm, Mr. Sellers? I didn't hear you.
Affirm.
Thank you so much. Mr. Begelman, please proceed.
Great. Do I have permission to share my screen?
Yes, you do.
One moment. Good afternoon, Mr. Green.
Good afternoon.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Great. Before we get started, can you just please state your name and your employment position for the record?
My name is Mark Green. I'm supervisor of South District, license and inspections.
Great. I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as City Exhibit A. do you recognize this document?
Begelman, I'm sorry for interrupting. Could
Yes.
you just enlarge the violation notice, please?
Oh, sure. How's that?
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Great. Supervisor Green, do you recognize this document?
Yes,
Can you explain what it is, please?
that's a site violation notice.
What was the subject premises this site violation notice was issued?
430 Miller Street.
What was the date of this site violation notice?
Date of the notice is 8/30/2022.
Did you inspect the property at 430 Miller Street on August 30th, 2022?
Yes, sir.
And what was the violation you observed on August 30th, 2022 at 430 Miller Street?
I observed the property was being rented without a valid current rental license.
And is it a violation of Philadelphia code to rent out a property without a valid rental license?
Yes.
Great. I'm now going to show you what was previously marked as City Exhibit B. And this was a picture that was on the site violation notice, but it's blown up. Do you recognize this image?
Yes.
Did you take this picture?
Yes.
Did you take this picture on August 30th, 2022?
Yes.
Is this 430 Miller Street?
Yes.
And can you describe what's in this picture for the record?
A single family R3.
And based on what's in this picture, why did you conclude that this property was being rented?
I concluded the property is being rented at time of inspection, knocked on the door, asked the simple question, are you the owner of the property or are you renting? Explained to him first why I was there, complained for not having a rental license. The person spoke to me and told me that they were renting the property. I looked in the system. Well, I already looked in the system before I even left, saw they didn't have a rental license. I issued a SVN.
Great, thank you. I'm now going to show you what has been previously marked as City Exhibit C. Do you know what this document is?
It's an appeal.
Who filed this appeal?
Mark Sellers.
And is this an appeal of the site violation notice you issued?
Yes.
Could you read, for the record, what's written in the section labeled reason for appeal?
Lead inspection schedule so existing license may be renewed.
Great, thank you. I am now going to show you what's been previously marked as City Exhibit D. Do you recognize, or what is this document that I'm showing you?
This is a rental license.
And what's the effective date of this rental license?
Effective date is 10/3/2022.
And I'm sorry, is this a rental license for the premises at 430 Miller Street?
Yes, it is.
And you said the effective date was October 3rd, 2022?
Yes, sir.
And is that does that date proceed August 30th, 2022? Is it after? Is October 3rd, 2022 after August 30th, 2022?
Yes.
So at the time your inspection, there was no rental license, but a rental license was obtained October 3rd, 2022.
Yes.
Great. That's all the questions I have for Supervisor Green.
Supervisor Green, I'd like to ask you a question. The site violation notice that was submitted is made out to, thank you, Mr. Begelman. Can you just enlarge that a little bit more, please?
Yes, I also believe, I hate to interrupt, I believe I can answer your question. I believe you're asking, but
okay.
You can,
let me pose the question anyway. I'd like Inspector Green to respond, and then if you want to add more to it, that would be great.
Great.
But the site violation is made out to a I believe it's a Mr. or Ms. Najia, Najjia Mahmoud, Mahmoud, and Jonathan, Jonathan Fink. Is that correct? Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. And when you went back to the office to check on the rest of the documents that you referred to in your testimony, were Mr. or Ms. Mahmoud and Mr. Fink noted as property owners for this address?
Well, I actually sent that to research, and research gave that owner the responsibility of the site violation notice.
And Chairperson Penn, if I may interrupt, the city is not objecting, is not lodging a standing objection to this appeal. City Exhibit E, which I did not show Supervisor Green, is the deed of the property, and Mr. Sellers is one of the people listed on the deed as having a half interest in the property with his wife. So the city has no standing objection to this appeal.
Okay, terrific. Thank you so much. I just needed to clarify that. The other question I have, can you scroll back down to the rental license? And Inspector Green, who is the party that obtained the rental license?
It says WMB Associates.
And do you happen to know whether Mr. Sellers or Ms. Mahmoud or Mr. Fink are members of WMB Associates? Do you happen to know?
I do not know at all. This is the first time seeing it.
Okay.
Haven't been to the property since 2022.
All right, Mr. Green. Inspector Green, rather. I apologize. Supervisor Green, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Mr. Sellers, do you have any questions of Supervisor Green regarding his testimony today?
I do not.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Sellers, it is now your turn to let the board know what your position is with regard to the issue of the rental license.
Sure, I do not dispute any of the exhibits. In short, the group of us, Ms. Mahmoud is my wife, Mr. Fink is my friend. The four of us have owned this property for a number of years. We have had a rental license on it continuously since the early 2000s. I received from the city in mid 2022 a letter and an invoice to renew my rental license. You may be familiar with it. It's a tear off thing. You tear off the bottom, you put a check with it in the mail, and you send it to the city, and eventually they send you your rental license, which is precisely what I did. Subsequently, and you'll note that there's about a 2-month gap between the time that our rental license expired and the new one was received. About 35 days after I sent in my check and the invoice, I received a letter from the city that said, we are no longer accepting checks for rental licenses. You have to use the Eclipse system in order to pay. I represent to this group that I used my best efforts to do that. I am a college graduate, and I failed to make the Eclipse system work for me. It continually hung up. It refused my payment. It was extraordinarily frustrating. So I went to the Municipal Services Building in an attempt to pay in person with my check that they had returned to me. I was given a number and told to sit down and wait, which I did. And at about 4 o'clock, they said, sorry, that's it. Everybody go home. So I found that rather frustrating as well. Subsequently, I gave up and simply asked the accountant that our group uses to try to navigate the Eclipse system, which he managed to do, and we reinstated our rental license. So I'm not disputing the facts in any way, shape, or form here. What I'm asking is for the board to recognize that apparently I attempted to comply. I followed the directions on the correspondence that I received from the city. I did my very best to attempt to navigate the Eclipse system, and I note for your benefit that there's presently an RFP out for a consultant to teach the city workers how to use that system themselves. I ultimately, like I said, paid a professional to do it. And I'm hoping that this board might acknowledge my efforts to comply with the rules.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Sellers?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. Mr. Sellers, you mentioned there's an RFP out to teach city workers how to use the Eclipse system. Are you?
I read about it in the Inquirer, sir.
That's your source. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Mr. Sellers, I have a few brief questions. When you received the notice of violation concerning the lack of a rental license, did you provide board's administration with documentation showing that you had made this application to renew your license by mail?
No, ma'am, I did not. I freely admit that I discarded the correspondence, but kept the check, which I then attempted to use when I went down to the Municipal Services Building to pay.
And did you provide the board's administration with a copy of the check and maybe the copy of the I don't know how you got your number from the from at MSB from L&I, but did you provide anything at all to show that you went to licenses and inspections and made an attempt to make payment with that draft at that time?
I confess I neglected to keep the little paper number that that they gave me when I went down there.
And you didn't provide board's administration with a copy of the check to show the date that you made the application?
No, I have not.
Who's in WMB Associates?
WMB Associates is a partnership of me, my wife, Mr. Fink, and his wife.
All right, thank you so much. Anyone else have questions? Okay, Mr. Begelman, would you like to make a brief closing?
Very, very briefly, you heard testimony today from Supervisor Green. You also heard directly from the appellant, Mr. Sellers. His appeal document did not state any reason, any delay in the effort to obtain a rental license. All he said was that lead inspection was scheduled so that it could be renewed. That lead inspection was scheduled after August 30th, 2022, after the rental license had already expired. So on the date of the site violation notice, August 30th, 2022, there was no rental license on the property for 430 Miller Street. Mr. Sellers appears to admit that, and therefore the city requests that this violation be affirmed. Thank you.
Mr. Sellers, any final remarks or information you'd like to provide us with before we vote?
No.
All right then. In the matter of case number 32, HA 2022-003971, 430 Miller Street, Mark Sellers, city affirmed.
City affirmed.
City affirmed.
City affirmed.
Mr. Sellers, as you've heard, there's been a unanimous vote, city affirmed. You may appeal. That means you've lost your appeal, but you may appeal our decision And there is information at the bottom of your appeal papers. You can call board's administration to get direction as to the process involved in appealing our decision.
May I use the Eclipse system to pay the fine?
I cannot answer that question for you, but I'm sure someone at board's administration can do that. So I would suggest that you contact them by telephone, and they'll be able to tell you.
Will I receive an invoice, or how do I pay this?
As I've just told you, Mr. Sellers, I can't answer any questions with reference to how you make the payment. If you call board's administration, I'm sure they can answer all those questions.
Mr. Begelman should be able to.
I beg your pardon?
Mr. Begelman should be able to give them some guidance on that.
Thank you so much. Mr. Begelman, can you answer that question for Mr. Sellers?
I am not 100% sure the exact mechanism in which he'll receive an invoice. I think he will, and I believe he should be able to pay on Eclipse. There should be a statement, a fine, a section on Eclipse. There's also an Eclipse hotline. You can call and you can, get some questions answered on how to use the system. So if he has any particular difficulty, feel free to reach out to me, and I can or Supervisor Green. And we can try to help you the best we can. But there should be some instructions on the city website about how to use Eclipse and a number to call in for any questions.
And perhaps your
Thank you.
accountant who didn't have any trouble with it might be able to help you as well. Is that all right, Mr. Sellers?
I thank you for acknowledging the my efforts.
Okay. Thank you so much for.
I have one thing. I'm sorry.
No, well, Mr. Green, we're done already. So is this in reference to how he would pay?
This is who he needs to contact.
Okay, great. Thank
Mr.
you.
Begelman said he needs to contact with me. You would need to get in touch with Central West District, sir. Have a nice day. Everybody have a nice day.
Thank you, Supervisor Green. Thank you, Mr. Sellers. I believe that concludes our list for today. And thank you all for your patience with me in particular and for the process. See you all Thursday.
Ms. Penn, I want to have a quick executive briefly.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll give it to you, Steve. Give me 1 second.
Okay.